Greetings. Welcome to Dr. English's Book Lovers Book Club. I'm Dr. English and I teach English. This week I'm going to review a very large expanse of sea by Tahereh Mafi. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Tahereh is an Iranian American, and this book is one that it's a piece of work of fiction, but it makes me think, well, I wonder if there are some autobiographical pieces in this, although I don't know for sure. But I have to say, out of all the books I've been reviewing so far this year, this one was probably the most difficult one for me to. I was so annoyed in the very first half of this. It was so long and drawn out. I was just like, and then there would be stuff like with something really incredible that was said, or something just like awful, and then there'd be this response which is like wow, and I'm like, really, that's the only word you could come up with to say? Why not just say nothing? And that repeating the use of the word wow was just getting to be so annoying to me as a reader. And I just felt like she drug this out. I felt like there's so much stuff in that first half that this book could have been pared down quite a bit. It didn't need that much exposition. When we're talking about, how to write, I just felt like the exposition took forever. I was like, it got good about halfway through. Then I was like, oh, why didn't she just get to this quickly? Because, and she's so annoying. I just couldn't take it. It was just, and I think maybe that was part of it. Even her, she was just annoying. Her name is Shireen. It looks like Shirin. It's Shirin, and most people say Shireen, Shireen, but it's actually Shireen, because she points that out. But it was not a character. I was just like so annoyed with this character because she was so obnoxious. And so that was part of it too. I was like, wow, did she really want to make this character that obnoxious? She was just obnoxious. And it was really hard for me to read something that had a narrator that was like, I just wanted to slap her. No, I wouldn't slap her, but I just wanted to say, really? That is the way you are? I mean, it was just like, yeah, she was obnoxious and obstinate. But then, as you go on, you realize what a terrible experiences she has because she wears her hijab, her scarf. And she didn't, people try to tell her she didn't have to do that. But she does it because of her faith and what she's very good about, and talking about why she chooses to wear it, and so that obnoxiousness, that obstinance, is just from how poorly she was treated, and this takes place like right after 9/11, and so I know for a fact, I have a family member that lives in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and after that, like someone who was her neighbor was like, he was Sikh, and he was attacked, and so I get that part of it. That was very legitimately true experience for a lot of Arab people, Muslim people, and well, Sikhs are not Muslim, but people don't even know that because he was wearing a turban that they just assumed he was a Muslim, but Sikhs are not Muslim. So it was bad for Sikhs. That was horrible for anyone who is Muslim, and for women if they were to wear their hijab. People were just awful. So I think that was part of the reason why she kind of made this so drawn out, as to like to justify why she was so angry, why she had the attitude that she had. And she talks too about, like, Shireen talks about how her parents are like, you don't have it bad. I've saw people get their, split, get cut down, and pretty much gutted, it's just horrible things that people saw in Iran or other places. And under, very horrible regimes. And so that part of it was really difficult for me. It was like she was so obnoxious, but then she had such a chip on her shoulder because of the way she was treated. And legitimately, she was just done with everybody because it didn't matter what she did. And there's a great scene with another girl who was Indian, and I think she said she was from India, and she was a Muslim, and she didn't wear her scarf, her hijab, and she tells her, she goes, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that she didn't wear it because people still treated her poorly because she was Muslim. And so that was like a revelation too, I think, a little bit for Shireen, that even if she, and Shireen actually was brave enough to wear her scarf. And so, and it really made her, gave her strength. And I have a lot of respect for that. I have a lot of respect for all people who are Muslim living in our country, because after 9/11 there was such a shift, and I don't feel like we've ever really gotten past it in some ways. Some people have, but so many people still don't. And I say this because I had a Muslim student who wore not a burqa, but she dressed with her hijab, and then she had her clothing, beautiful, always something beautiful that she had. And she was, had an experience in the parking lot one time, and I was so upset when I found out about it. She didn't feel safe. And so that's only been a couple years ago. This is 2025. So in that regard, I'm really sympathetic to Shireen in this book. And I'm going to read a passage. And like I said, as it got further into the story, it was just, even though she had such an attitude, she also had some naivete. There were things that she didn't know, and she didn't want to know, because she just tried to stay low on the radar and not, she didn't want to stand out, so she tried to stay as low key as she could. So this is after she was attacked, and this is what I'm going to read this from, not all of this, but I wanted to read this because it just made me so upset. Naveed basically saved my life that day. Naveed is her older brother, and he's very popular. He's very good looking, handsome. He just knows everybody. And they've moved a lot. That's the other thing I forgot to talk about. Like, she has moved so many times and had to, been in like 4 different high schools in high school. So she hasn't been able to have any permanence, or, get to know students well enough, and then they leave. So Naveed is her older brother. Naveed basically saved my life that day. He'd shown up with the cops just before those dudes could bash my head into the concrete. It had been a premeditated incident. Someone had heard them talk in class about their plans to come after me and tipped off Naveed. The cops never arrested anyone that day. The police lights had scared the guys enough to back off, so when the officers got out of the car, I was sitting on the sidewalk shaking, trying to untangle my scarf from around my neck. The cops sighed, told those 2 assholes to stop being stupid, and sent them home. Naveed was furious. He kept telling them to do something, that those guys should be arrested, and the cops told him to calm down, that they were just kids, that there was no need to make this so dramatic. And then the officers walked over to me, where I was still sitting on the ground, and asked me if I was okay. I didn't really understand the question. "Are you okay?" one of the cops said again. I wasn't dead, and for some reason I figured that must have meant I was okay, so I nodded. "Listen," he said, "maybe you should reconsider this whole get-up." He gestured vaguely at my face. "Walking around like this all of the time?" He shook his head, sighed. "I'm sorry, kid, but it's like you're asking for it. Don't make yourself a target. Things are complicated in the world right now. People are scared. Do you understand? And then, do you speak English?" I remember shaking so hard I could barely sit straight. I remember looking up at the cop and feeling powerless. I remember staring at the gun holstered at his hip and being terrified. "Here," he said, and offered me a card. "Call this number if you feel unsafe, okay?" I took the card. It was the number for Child Protective Services. That wasn't the beginning. That wasn't where my anger started. But it was a cauterizing moment I would never forget. So that is just, oh, why not reconsider your get-up? I mean, seriously, it's part of the Islam religion for women. It's just like, what an insulting thing to say. It's reading that just made me want to throw up. And then there's the boy in this that she just tries to ignore him, and everything she does, she's tried. And that's the part of that just made me crazy. It's like, gosh, can we drag this out any further? This whole relationship, and, just how that got built up. That was way too much exposition. But his name is Ocean. And after a long, long time, he finally gets to go to her parents, but she just tells him that he's a friend, and that's not true. And so he comes for Thanksgiving, and this is just the scene with Ocean and Shireen and her mom is just, I love this so much I had to read it. It wasn't long before they started defending him over me. Every time I'd tell them to back off to cut this short, they'd turn to Ocean for support. He, of course, very politely took their side, insisting that he didn't mind, and my mother asked him again if he wanted more tea, and he said no, thank you, and she poured him more tea anyway, and she asked him if he wanted more food, and he said no, thank you, and she filled 4 large Tupperware containers with leftovers and stacked them in front of him. But when he saw the food, he seemed so genuinely grateful that by the end of the night, my parents were half in love with him and perfectly ready to trade me in for a better model. He's so polite, my mother kept saying to me. Why aren't you polite? What did we do wrong? She looked at Ocean. Ocean, Azizam, she said, please tell Shireen she should stop swearing so much. Ocean almost lost it for a second. I saw him about to laugh hard, and he stifled in just in time. I shot him a look. My mom was still talking. She was saying, it's always asshole this, bullshit that. I say to her, Shireen June, why are you so obsessed with shit? Why is everything shit? Jesus Christ, Ma, I said. Leave Jesus out of this, she said, and pointed the wooden spoon at me before using it to hit me on the back of the head. Oh my God, I said, waving her away. Stop it. My mom sighed dramatically. You see, she said. She was talking to Ocean now. No respect. Ocean only smiled. He looked like he was still failing to keep the smile from turning into a laugh. He pressed his lips together, cleared his throat, but his eyes gave him away. Finally, Ocean sighed and stood up, stared at the stack of Tupperware containers set in front of him, and said he'd better call it a night. I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole book. You could teach this in a high school class, but like I said, there's some not really violent, but there's still the language. She swears a lot, but that to me is kind of a minor thing. But more so, it's a slow start, and but I think as far as like cultural awareness, yes, I definitely think that your students would learn a great deal about what happened at that time period in our country. And I think that's something that we just hear about, we see the pictures, but this one will really give you an idea of what people who are Muslim, women in particular, went through. I think and they still are. I'm sorry, they just are. So in that regard, I think it would be a great book to pair with maybe a sociology class, psychology class, or sociology class in particular. And so definitely put it on your shelf. I definitely do it as a small group book club, which is what I did with my young adult literature class. So I highly recommend it in that regard. And but like I said, my take was just the first part of it. It took me a while to get into it. So, and that's maybe just me as a reader. I like fast-paced books. Next week I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorites. I love John Green, and I'm going to be doing reviewing Looking for Alaska next week, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. So thank you for joining me today. Thanks. See you next week. Bye.